me see. I will send out a new tweet because I messed up the first one. Let me just delete this one, delete, and tweet. Okay, so I made a bit of a mistake there because I still left something running that I needed to turn off and I forgot. So let's see if it works now. Okay, so I need to send this updated link, and after that I'll be good. Let me see. I can close this and I can copy this link again, send it to Telegram, and delete the old one. Delete message, delete. Okay. That should be it. Okay, so yeah, today is Advent of Code Day. It's the first day. Hello Nathan, thanks for joining me. It's the first day of Advent of Code. Advent of Code is a yearly event that takes place, and I took part last year. And it's a programming challenge. So some of you that know me might know me from the tools that I made for Wax. Programming is something that I really love to do, and Advent of Code is really fun. So what I want to do is the same that I did last year, but I did a bit different. Last year I live streamed every day as soon as I could in the morning for the new challenge that opened up. And I did it on Twitch, and I would then edit the video on YouTube, and that would take me lots of time. I don't have that amount of time this year, but I still want to do the challenges. So what I decided to do is just do the challenges whenever I can, stream them and have them at least archived somewhere, but I won't be editing them and explaining everything I do as I did last year. I've put the link to the description of last year's video in the description. You can check those out if you want. But yeah, I just will start by reading the challenge and doing the coding examples live. I created a small program to get started. I like to program in .NET, C#. Last year I did this as well. So these are like all the challenges from last year. I have all the days here in one big ugly file, but it works. Something that's really cool that I wrote last year is something to get your encrypted session cookie from Chrome. So how it works is usually you get a challenge text in here. It will give you something that you need to do. And it comes with an input file. So here it says get your puzzle input, and you need to process this. So what I did was write a small utility to download that file with your session, because every contestant gets their own input file. So I wrote this boilerplate code. I got my session cookie in a file. I got all sorts of extensions that I wrote last year. And I got a solution class that basically lets you download the input file and have it as a string so you can process it. So I made a day one file that basically says, okay, when you get here, it has already downloaded the challenge and you can ready to start processing it. So I think we'll just start with reading the challenge and see if we can solve it. By the way, if something's unclear, feel free to ask. If the music is too loud or too soft, also let me know. So thanks to everybody for hanging out, and let's see. So day one, sonar sweep. You're minding your own business on a ship at sea when the overboard alarm goes off. You rush to see if you can help. Apparently one of the elves tripped and accidentally sent the sleigh keys flying into the ocean. And before you know, you're inside a submarine. The elves keep ready for situations like this. It's covered in Christmas lights, because of course it is. And it even has an experimental antenna that should be able to track the keys if you can boost its signal strength high enough. There is a little meter that indicates the antenna's signal strength by displaying 0 to 50 stars. Your instincts tells you that in order to save Christmas, you'll need to get all 50 stars by December 25th. Okay, so this first part is just a bit of a storyline. Basically, there are 25 days in an advent calendar, same here. So there's 25 days with 2 challenges each, and you can get a star for each. So in the end, if you did all of them, you can get 50 stars. Um, Collect stars by solving puzzles. 2 puzzles will be made available on each day in the Advent calendar, and the second puzzle is unlocked when you complete the first. Each day grants 1 star. Good luck. As the submarine drops below the surface of the ocean, it automatically performs a sonar sweep of the nearby sea floor. On a small screen, the sonar sweep report, your puzzle input, appears. Each line is a measurement of the sea floor depth as the sweep looks further and further away from the submarine. For example, suppose you had the following report. So you have these values. This report indicates that scanning outward from the submarine, the sonar sweep found depth of 199, 200, 208, 210 and so on. The first order of business is to figure out how quickly the depth increases, just so you know what you're dealing with. You never know if the keys will get carried into deeper water by an ocean current or a fish or something. Okay? To do this, count the number of times the depth measurement increases from the previous measurement. There is no measurement before the first measurement. In the example above, the changes are as followed. So you start with none, here it increments, here it increments, here it increments, here it's decreased. So you have 3 increments, then from here on it's an increment, 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 no increment, okay. So in this example there are 7 measurements that are larger than the previous measurement. How many measurements are larger than the previous measurement? Okay, so this is easy. So we saw the input file. These are basically a list of values, and as always the first day is really easy and basically anybody can do it. So what we need to do is read each of the lines, compare the previous value and see if it's bigger and then count that. So let's just do that now and we can pull this up here. So in the base class that I set up, it will have a variable called input, which will have the text file. So here we can say input.split okay. I need to remember which extensions I made because basically it needs to split by line. Let's see, as in32s. Okay, so here you can see it will, this will have it as a string array, this will do it to lines. So what we can do is input.toLines as in32s. So you can have var measurements equals this, and this will have now a list of ints. So these are my helper functions that I wrote to basically, you see all sorts of common patterns with these challenges. So splitting a text into lines is one of them. And then reading all of them as numbers is another. So I have these helper functions. So here we have them as a measurement. So what we can do is int previous is measurements.first. We can do it with 0. And we can import using system.link, which will help us with some helper functions. So instead of this, I could do .first, and it will have the first value. So now we can do for each int depth int measurements. Let's do a counter int increase count equals 0 if depth larger than previous, and we keep track of those. So we increment our counter. So we compare this one against the previous and then we increase it, and now we override previous with the current value. And we could say .skip 1. So this will skip the first input because it will always be the same, but we already set it to the first here. But since it will be cleaner to do just this, like previous will be -1 and it doesn't matter. No, that's not right. First, and then we skip it here. Yeah. So this should be it, and this will mean that I can do a result console right line, increment count, let's see, increment count. This will be the increase count, format it, lines in total, measurements. So here we can do measurements dot count. Okay, so if we run this now, and did I set it up to run? Yes, okay. So I can run this now, and it will tell us the answer for this. So let me see, did I print that out? At the top, I need to not print out the entire file. So it's 1722 times out of 2000 measurements. So we put that in here, and we should submit it and get the right answer. That's the right answer. You are 1 gold star closer to finding the sleigh. So what happens now is that the second part of these challenges takes the same input, but it adds a twist. So usually you can see it coming. I don't really see what they know what they will do now, but depending on how you approach the first one, it either means you have to rewrite your entire solution, or you can just make a quick edit. So depending on how clever and versatile your code is, it can save you a lot of time. So that's always fun. Okay, let's see, part 2. And part 2 is usually considerably harder, but this is still day 1, so it's fairly easy. Let me just remove the printout of the input. I added that there to test the first time if the code ran. So let's see, considering every single measurement isn't as useful as you expected, there's just too much noise in the data. Instead, considering sums of a 3 measurement sliding window. Again, considering the above example. Okay, so this means keep track of the 3 previous ones. Start by comparing the first and second 3 measurement windows. Let's see, the measurement in the first window are marked A, their sum is, yeah, second window is marked B, sum is that, the sum of measurements in the second window is larger than the sum of the first. Okay. Yeah, so you keep track of the 3 previous values. And the funny thing here is, so in this case, when you do this, you just look at 4 values, right? You look at this one, this one, this one, and this one. Those are your 2 sets. So they will share these 2, number B and C. So actually the only thing that you have to do is to see if A is smaller than D. Let's see. So in this case, if you programmed it the first time that you use the indexes, so instead of this, what I did here, I just did it for each loop. What you could also do is take an index and look at offsets between each other. So what you can do here is start at index 3 for this one and compare it to -3 and see if it's bigger, and just walk that entire stack. Let's see. The goal now is to count the number of times the sum of measurements in the sliding window increases from the previous sum. So compare A with B, and then B with C, then C with D, and so on. Stop when there aren't enough measurements left to create a new 3 measurement sum. Let's see, in this scenario there are 5. Consider the sum of 3 measurements. How many sums are larger than the previous sum? Okay, so we do the same, except this time we do it differently. Let me just add it to this one. I should probably make a separate A and B variants just for tracking. But But in this case, what we can do is for int I is, let's say, const int measure offset equals 3, because you want to compare the fourth index against the first index, so the difference between those is 3. So we do for int I is measure offset I smaller than measurements dot count increase I. So we skip the first few and we start at this one, because we can only compare them when there are at least 3 values in the series. Yeah, 4 actually. So 3 and then 1 shifting over. So what we can do now is if measurements I is larger than measurements I minus measure offset, and then we have the same logic here. So now we can say we need to reset increase count here, or we have reused it and reset it. So we do reset the counter. We can say measure offset. Come on. Measure offset. Okay. So in this case, we start at index 3 and we compare index 3 to index 0. So in this case, 210 is larger than 219. So the first one is an increase. Then you compare 2 to 2, no increase because they are the same. So that's also what happens here. And then you compare this one, 207 to 208 is decreased, then 240 to etc. So yeah, this will work. Also, if you ever try to do this and get stuck, it really helps to try to process the test inputs. So let's just run this again. And we have, oh, there are actually more. Huh, didn't expect that. Cool. Let's see if I'm correct. Boom! That's the right answer, and you're 1 star, gold star closing to find out the sleigh keys. So yeah, that was Advent of Code day 1 and parts 1 and 2 for today. I hope you liked it. I really love these kind of challenges, and I think they're really fun to do. Especially when you're new to programming, they get complicated very quickly, but they're nice abstract stuff that you can just dive in without having to learn a lot of the language. Because if you look here, and you can ignore all the fancy stuff that I did to read the input. Basically, if you take the input file here, and you put this in your code, it works as well, right? You can do, for instance, you do static string lines is, and then you put an at here, you paste them all in, you do dot split, environment, come on, environment, system.environment.new line. And now you have your lines, you know, and then you don't need all the helper functions that I wrote. So this is really great to get started with programming, because all you need to do is basic stuff to get started. For like here, it's just basic loops, etc. But it gets complicated fast after this. But the first few days, most people can do. And it's also something that experienced programmers do to learn new languages. So if you're comfortable in a certain language and you've always wanted to try a new language, Advent of Code is a great puzzle to take up a new language and expand your horizons. There are even people that do like every day or even every part in a different language. There are Git repositories of people that try to do this. So yeah, I really just enjoy this, and I've done a few languages before. I just really enjoy the challenge itself, and I like to do it in my favorite language, which is C#. So yeah, this is Advent of Code. The links are in the description. If you liked it, go check it out for yourself. I'll be trying to do this every day. I can't say when or if I'll make every day, but I'll try and have some fun with it. So thanks for watching, and maybe see you tomorrow. Bye bye.